More like bitch. So what's the movie about, you ask? A Chinese painting has been cut in half, and it's the target of two rival groups of thieves, the Japanese smuggling group and the British smuggling group. That's actually what they're called in the movie. Such subtlety and creativity. Because out of all the nations they could have chosen, they managed somehow, by coincidence I guess, to come up with the two nations that have, I would say, the most interesting histories with China. Oh wait, unless there's a mandatory subtext going on here. Well, in case you still haven't gotten it, one of the British smugglers is shown smoking something in a water pipe. And whatever it is that he's smoking has a very soothing, you could almost say, narcotic effect. Okay, we get it. Put down the didactic hammer and sickle. So in this movie, an insurance agent, who turns out to be one hell of a hand-to-hand combat expert, and a secret agent who seems to be married to her. It makes breakfast or else it has to make Flirting Scholar 3. Even though he doesn't seem to even bother hiding the fact that he's some kind of serial philanderer. More about that later. Well, these two heroes are tasked with recovering one half of the painting and protecting the other half. I think. You see, it's hard to tell exactly. But I guess if we look at the person that wrote and directed the film, it kind of makes a bit of sense. Jay Sun previously was the producer for Fit Lover, a film so awful that its climax is two cars having sex. No, really, I'm not joking. Look. See? I told you. In Switch, there's a scene in which Andy Lau and
Lin Zhiling
don't have sex. It kind of sounds like they are, and it vaguely sort of looks like they are, but it turns out that Andy Lau is just doing push-ups because he needs to stay in shape for his next watch commercial or tea commercial or whatever. And while he's doing his push-ups, this woman is sitting on a bathtub in her clothes by herself. The only reason she's there is because she bears a remarkable resemblance to Andy Lau's dead ex-girlfriend. And in fact, actually, she is his ex-girlfriend, but she's not dead. She's just changed out of the shitty $10 wig that she had on that fooled him the first time because he's so smart and such a great secret agent and apparently such a lousy husband/boyfriend. Whatever. So it's kind of hard to tell you the story because I honestly don't know what the hell it is. But what I do know is the reason that there was, of course, no sex between those two people is because the film was made in and for China. So there's no touchy-feely, kissy, pokey. But when you watch Switch, if you do, you can tell all the different Hollywood movies that are being recycled. It's mostly just an exercise in cheap Chinese knockoffery, imitations of things that we've all seen done before in a lot of other movies and seen them done a lot better. But it's just done in such a cheap, awful way that it ends up looking like some kind of made-for-cable mockbuster. In the opening action scene of the film, someone zip lines down to a building from a jet. The CGI that they use to make one of the actresses bald is absolutely laughable, but, you know, so is my translation.
屋顶与地下室的
This movie is just, it's insultingly bad, it's implicitly jingoistic, and it's indefensibly awful. In a museum in Taipei, two mainland cops show up in uniform because Taiwan is a province of China. Really? I've got an idea. Why don't you take this thing and go fuck yourself? The Japanese villains, of course that's redundant in Chinese, are portrayed as hypersexualized, violent, pedophilic, psychotic, and unbalanced. And they also have a lousy taste in hairstyles and clothes. But I guess the filmmakers feel that that's how the Japanese people really are, so it makes it okay for them to be shown that way. As usual, my biggest problem is the writer and director, which in this case is one person. He gave an interview recently and he made some very interesting statements.
When I wrote the script of Switch 2 years ago, I didn't intend to direct it. I just couldn't find anybody else that was suitable.
Suitable in this case means mongoloid enough to willingly throw away all their self-respect, credibility, and a professional future.
I was really touched by Andy Lau's support. He fell in love with the movie.
Well, Andy Lau recently apologized for even being in this movie, so that essentially leaves you with a mouthful of shit, doesn't it?
I also want to try hard to test the overseas market for the film.
It's about the same as the market for Chinese milk powder.
I think our movie is easy for any people to understand story-wise.
Well, if people doesn't include 2 PhD holders who are completely baffled by the narrative clusterfuck that you call a movie, then you're right.
And Western audiences want to watch something new from China.
Yeah, actually they do. But this film is just more typical Chinese frothing, as evidenced by its wholly unsubtle demonizing of Japan and Britain, and it's really just more of the same jingoistic crap.
布尔喀，布尔喀。
The West does want something new from China, but Switch sure as hell isn't it. Andy Lau should apologize. This movie stinks worse than an elephant's balls in August. But don't take my word for it. Or the word of a metric fuck-ton of Chinese netizens who savage this movie like a gang of sailors on a 12-hour shore leave. This is one of those instances where I really want you to see it, and that way I won't have suffered alone. I want you to see the movie, but I don't want you to download it. Down there, eventually, there will be links where you can buy it. Buy a DVD. Don't buy a Blu-ray, please. This movie's not worth that. If you enjoy this review, please subscribe to this channel. If nothing else, I promise you, eventually I'm going to have an aneurysm and I'm going to end up dying with the taste of my own blood in my mouth. And if you're subscribing to me, you'll get to see it first. Have a lovely day.